Living overseas looks like paradise on the internet, but after doing it for years, I've learned there's a side of it nobody really talks about. Let's talk about it. You know what's interesting about living overseas? From the outside, it looks like paradise. People see the beaches, they see the food, they see the lifestyle. They see the pictures on Instagram and the travel videos on YouTube, and they start thinking to themselves, man, if I could just move to another country, my life will be straight. And I get it, because once the excitement wears off, once the honeymoon phase ends, once real life starts to settle in, you start seeing things a little differently. You start realizing that living overseas isn't just sunshine, beaches, and cheap living. There's also a dark side to it that a lot of people never mention. Not because they're trying to lie to you, but because most people only show the highlight Instagram reel. So today, I want to talk about the dark side of living overseas, the things people don't warn you about, the things that can catch you off guard, and the things you only really understand once you lived it for yourself. So one thing I've noticed is a lot of people fall in love with the fantasy of living overseas. They imagine waking up every day like they're on vacation. Cheap food, beautiful women, no stress, no responsibilities, just freedom. But here's the thing most people don't realize. Living somewhere is not the same thing as visiting somewhere. When you're on vacation, everything feels exciting. Every restaurant is new, every street is interesting. Every experience feels like an adventure. But when you live somewhere long enough, it stops being a vacation and it becomes real life. You still have bills, you still have problems, you still have days where things piss you off. The only difference is now you're dealing with it in a different country. Here's something that people really talk about when they move overseas: loneliness. And I don't mean the kind of loneliness where you just feel bored for a day or two. I mean the type where you suddenly realize that everything familiar in your life is thousands of miles away. Your family, your lifelong friends, your support system, all of that stays back home. Now when you first arrive somewhere new, you don't really feel it. Everything's exciting. You're exploring, meeting new people, trying new food, learning new places. But after a while, real life slows down, and that's when the silence can hit you. Because building real connections in another country isn't always easy. You got language barriers, cultural differences, trust issues, and sometimes you realize that a lot of people you met overseas are also just passing through. Travelers, tourists, people who might only be there for a few weeks or a few months. So sometimes relationships don't last. And that's something that can catch people off guard, because living overseas can be exciting, but it can also be lonely at times. Another thing that surprises a lot of people is expat communities. When people imagine living overseas, they picture expats supporting each other, like everybody's on the same team. But sometimes the reality is completely different. You'll see jealousy, competition, judgment, people criticizing each other's lifestyle, people arguing over things that honestly don't even matter. And sometimes it feels like the biggest critics of expats are other expats. Now I've seen this in multiple places, different countries, different communities, but the pattern always seems similar. Some people are thriving, some people are struggling, and sometimes when someone is struggling, they start projecting that frustration onto other people. So instead of building a positive community, you start seeing negativity. And if you're not careful, that kind of environment can drain your energy. Another part of living overseas that people underestimate is the culture shock. Because when you visit a country for a week or two, everything feels exciting. Different language, different food, different way of life. But when you actually live there, those differences become part of your everyday life. And sometimes that adjustment takes time. Maybe things move slower. Maybe systems work differently. Maybe communication is harder. Maybe the culture has expectations that you don't fully understand. And while those differences can be fascinating, they can also be frustrating at times, especially when you're still learning how things work. Another big misconception about living overseas is the idea that everything will automatically be cheap. And yes, in some places your money can go further, but that doesn't mean life becomes free. You still have rent, food, transportation, unexpected expenses. And sometimes being a foreigner can actually make certain things more expensive. So if someone moves overseas thinking they'll never have to worry about money again, that mindset can create problems, because financial stability still matters no matter where you live. Another thing people don't really understand until they live overseas for a while is how relationships work differently in different countries. And I'm not just talking about dating, I'm talking about friendships too. When you move to a new country, you meet a lot of people quickly. Other expats, travelers, locals, people who are also figuring things out. And at first it can feel like everybody's cool, everybody's friendly, everybody wants to chill, hang out. But over time you start realizing something. Not everybody is really here for long term. Some people are just passing through. Some people are just chasing a fantasy. And some people are dealing with their own problems that they brought with them from wherever they came from. So sometimes you build friendships that disappear just as fast as they started. And that's something people don't expect. You see, back home, most of your friendships were built over years. School, work, family connections. But overseas, everything moves faster. People come and go, and sometimes that can make relationships feel temporary. Here's something else that doesn't get talked about enough. A lot of people move overseas because they're trying to escape something. Maybe they're tired of their job, maybe they're tired of their environment, maybe they're tired of their life back home, and they think moving to a different country will fix everything. But here's the truth. Moving somewhere new doesn't erase who you are. Your mindset still follows you, your habits still follow you, your problems still follow you. So if someone is unhappy with their life back home and think moving overseas will magically solve everything, sometimes they end up disappointed because the location changed, but the person didn't. And I've seen this happen more than once. People arrive excited, thinking they're starting a brand new life, but after a while, the same frustrations start showing up again. Different place, same mindset. Another thing people underestimate about living overseas is how hard it can be to start over completely. Think about it. You see, back home, you already understand how everything works. You know the systems, you know the culture, you know how to navigate daily life without even thinking about it. But when you move somewhere new, everything becomes a learning process again. Simple things can suddenly feel complicated. Opening bank accounts, finding housing, understanding local systems. Even something like ordering food can feel confusing at first. And that adjustment period takes patience. Some people adapt quickly, others struggle for months. But either way, starting from scratch in a new location or a new country takes a level of resilience that people underestimate. Another reason people get surprised when they move overseas is because the internet paints a very specific picture. When you watch travel content online, most creators are showing the best moments, the beaches, the nightlife, the amazing food, the beautiful places. And that's understandable. People want to watch content that inspires them. But what you usually don't see are the normal everyday moments. The quiet days, the frustrating days, the days when nothing exciting happens, because real life still exists overseas. You still got routines, you still got responsibilities, and sometimes life abroad can look like a lot normal than people expect. Now, with all that being said, I want to make something very clear. Living overseas can still be one of the most rewarding experiences a person can have. You get exposed to different cultures, different ways of thinking, different lifestyles. You meet people from all over the world. You see places that you may have never imagined visiting. And those experiences can change your perspective on life in a very powerful way. But the key is understanding that living overseas is not a permanent vacation. It's still life, just in a different location. And once you accept that reality, the experience becomes a lot more meaningful because you stop chasing the fantasy and start appreciating the real moments. At the end of the day, living overseas will teach you things about yourself that you might not never learn if you stayed in the same place your whole life. It will test your patience, it will test your mindset, and sometimes it will push you completely out your comfort zone. But those challenges are also what make the experience valuable, because every lesson, every mistake, every new experience becomes part of your journey. And whether someone stays overseas long term or eventually goes back home, those experiences stay with them forever. So if you ever thought about living overseas, just remember this. It can be amazing, it can be challenging, and sometimes it can be both at the same time. But if you approach it with the right mindset, it can be one of the most interesting chapters of your life. If you enjoy honest conversations about living abroad, travel, and real experiences living overseas, make sure you subscribe and follow the journey. I'll catch you on the next video.